Hello and welcome to another Trades and Tutorials video. This is Jeff Bish, president of MarketGauge.com. Now, for any of you who are just finding us on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to our channel and also make sure you get over to MarketGauge.com/tutorials where you'll also get alerted to every time we come out with a new video. Plus, there's a whole section of free information here. And if you're just finding us on Trades and Tutorials, make sure you check out the navigation above for all the other free resources in this area of our site. Additionally, if you'd like to watch this video in HD, which is much clearer, all you have to do is use the little settings icon that's down here on the right hand corner. It's like a little gear. Click on it, it'll give you the HD option, and then stop and restart the video. It'll be a lot clearer. I think you'll like it. So with that, let's get started with today's video. I'm going to look at MasterCard. Now MasterCard, this is an example of a day I think we'd all like to have caught, right? Well, I didn't catch all of it, but I caught a good portion of it, and I did it with a really simple technique and a little bit of luck. All right, the luck came in with somehow I found out that it was up big. All right, now I don't remember honestly how I did, and I know it wasn't because I was watching the news, because as you'll find out in a minute, there wasn't any news, but there obviously was some news. And this is what happened. All right, I'm going to show you how I use the opening range to get in safely. And I'm also going to point out when I go to the intraday chart that the key daily level here to be watching was right over these highs here. So that level is 89.70. So we want to keep that in mind. And really, I would be looking at anywhere from 89.40 all the way up to 89.70 key levels. Now, let's come over here to the 5-minute chart. Now, it just so happens I just did a webinar, and I brought up this very topic. In fact, I didn't even know MasterCard was going to do this when I prepared the webinar, but I'll share that with you in just a second. So when I say there wasn't any news, but there really was news, somehow I found out that MasterCard had just had this massive move, and I probably just looked at my quote screen and saw it was up big, and I looked at it. So I went and looked at the chart, and as I do, I always look at where the opening ranges are, right? Now the opening range is the first, in this case, the first 30 minutes of the day high and the first 30-minute of the day low. Now we can see that the volume in that first 30 minutes was absolutely massive, and the price action was absolutely massive. And here's that 89.50 to 89.70 level, isn't it, right? So the 89.85 looks like it was the high of the opening range. Now, when you understand the opening range, and this isn't a whole course about the opening range, but if you're interested in it, see if you can check out the latest webinar or look at the last video. Maybe I'll put a link under this to get a recent book about trading with the opening range. But for now, I just want to show you how it works. So this first 30 minutes, if you break out of this first 30 minutes, the bulls are in control. Okay. Now, if you break out of this first 30 minutes and you've had massive volume and you have massive volume on the breakout, all these things add up to a much stronger opening range breakout. Okay. So the thing I wanted to point out was at this point, there was no news. I looked around, there was no news. The bonds had also fallen big. Visa was also up big. So I was thinking it was something related to interest rates, some news that we hadn't heard yet, but clearly there was news. Now, if I make this a little bigger, the question is, how am I going to get into this thing and control my risk, right? Because the low of the day down here is 88.50, which actually isn't bad. It's less than an ATR, but if you just want to do a day trade, that's a big risk. Well, there's this pattern in the market that you'll find works remarkably well on stocks that have momentum. All right, and this is what I shared in a little bit more detail in the webinar as well. Again, this has nothing to do with the opening range. It's one of the things that I shared on the webinar. And that is that when a stock has momentum, And before I go on, would you not agree that a massive up move like this, and then a tighter consolidation, and then a massive up move like this constitutes a stock that is a good candidate for a stock that would have momentum that might continue? I would I would be surprised if most of you watching this video didn't agree that this has momentum. Some of you may argue it's overdone, but certainly it has momentum. So the question for the trader is, when does that momentum stop? Well, here's a way to do it. And I know some of you are also going to say, no, Jeff, that's just way too simplistic. But if you check this out on other charts, watch my other videos, you'll see this works very often. So here's the trick. When a stock has momentum, look at the low of the prior bar. And I want you to just notice the low of the prior bar as I go and put dots on each one. Now, I can't get your feedback, right, because this is a video. But hopefully, the pattern that you're seeing is that it is not until right here that this market trades below the low of the prior bar. Now I have a couple more nuances when I use this as a trailing stop to make it a little bit more robust, because not every market has this much momentum. But this is the first time right here that it trades below the prior bar. And the thing that I said in the webinar is when you trade and then close below the prior bar, that is a significant event. And then if you follow through from that bar's low, it suggests that that momentum has been broken. Okay. Now, so how do we apply that to the trade? Well, as I said, I found MasterCard when it had just about finished this bar. I know that if you break out a 30-minute opening range, that's going to be support. Look at where it was holding, right near the 30-minute opening range. I know the little momentum trick. I also know that the opening range high should be good support, and based on this consolidation, this one should be good support. So I bought it right in here and put my initial stop right in here. So for about 50 cents, I was able to ride this from about $90 all the way up to over $91.50 in, well, just over a half an hour. Now, I wasn't planning on this trade. It just fell in my lap. So there's a couple things in here that I'm kind of throwing at you. One, if you have momentum like this, that little trick of under the prior bar is really handy, just about every time frame. Keep watching these videos. You'll see me do it a lot. I'll probably even share some of the more nuances. If you're a member of our opening range courses, then you will hear this and learn this and learn more of the nuances over and over. Additionally, I know that the first 30 minutes of the opening range are really important. I also knew that where the location of this opening range fell relative to the daily chart made it obvious. So all these things came together for me because I know a few things, a few tricks, I'll call them, about how markets trade around the opening range and the daily charts. As you can see, they're not hard. So if you'd like to learn more about this, make sure that either see if you can sign up for the free ebook and the webinar if we still have it up. I don't know if we're going to put out a replay or not. If you're registered, you'll get it. If not, keep your eyes open for any other opening range related webinars. They're incredibly powerful. In the webinar, I don't even teach you the breakout part. I teach you about how to buy near the low. So this is just one other aspect for using the opening range. It's so powerful. I wish everybody could adopt it because it really has enabled me to trade so much easier. As you see, this one fell in my lap. I knew exactly where to get in. I knew exactly where to place my stop, and I used a really simple stop because I didn't want to have to follow it. Oh, and I almost forgot. News did eventually come out. I use Briefing as my source of news, and it's generally a great source of news. So no hard feelings against Briefing. But it was not until 10:25. So this bar right here, that the briefing news came out that there was news out of China that had lifted the stocks. So had I waited for the news, I would have been looking at it up here. Additionally, the news referenced another story. So that other story came out earlier, but clearly the big money knew the story before the general public did. All right, so the difference here is if had I had to wait for the news, I never would have had a great entry point. All I had to do, however, was see that there was something going on, understand how to trade it using the opening range, and I was good to go. So I also just remembered, great place to go to find information if the page is still up, marketgauge.com/ORR. If that page still exists, make sure you check it out. You can learn lots of great stuff about how to trade the opening range there. Thanks. Hope this helps, and I'll see you in the next video.